Ladies and gentlemen, landlords, how they're affected, tenants, how they're affected, the short to mid to long term differences we're seeing in the market, and that sort of projection. We're going to talk about it today. Stay tuned.
I'm the ringleader, so
Billy
Hi guys, back.
Drury. How
On
are you,
Monday.
Billy?
We thought you'd retired, but bang, he's back and he's ready to go again.
Oh no, just got a sugar hit for my 50th, and energy levels are back and strong, and off we go.
It's good to have you back. And what a topic to come back on with. This was inspired by an article you read over the weekend, and you were talking around the dinner table. Is that right?
It is, and I think there's if you're going to remember what's happened in the last, well, this year, you're going to sort of remember the budget. And I think then there you look at what's the residual, what has that residual been since then? What will it be towards the end of the year? And, we're seeing auction clearance rates. People are talking about that and what that's going to play out and look like, in my opinion and your opinion, in the next couple of years. There's some big benefits there to some people, not the people you may think.
Yeah, I guess winners and losers of all markets, but particularly the rental market. What I think is really interesting here, probably the biggest data point that's come out from the article we've read, is that it reports Australia's asking rents have increased more than 50% since 2020.
Yeah,
that's COVID.
Huge.
And like wages in comparison have gone up 20%. So there has been a difference there to the household income. Proportionately, it's getting more expensive to rent on, assuming wage growth. And this is probably people feeling on the back of COVID, but that's now 6 years down the track. It's been a while. Like, COVID was a time ago.
I think the most powerful thing I could say before we get into any of this is that energy doesn't get burnt or buried. It gets transferred. Money doesn't get burnt or buried. It gets transferred. And I remember saying that over and over and over to the team through COVID, to our teams, saying, guys, you just got to be where Johnny on the spot is. If there's enormous change and changes within the market, where is that transitional? Where is that energy going to? I think what we're talking about today is the rental market, and we all accept the changes that have happened in the last 3, 6, 5 months, and then maybe even 3 to 5 years. But where does that push the energy to?
Yeah, that's right. And yeah, you can get very wrapped up in talking about the sales market. That's one that's reported in the media the most. So we're not going to touch that this morning. We're just going to talk about rents. But yeah, there is rental pain, but is it landlord gain? Because the ratio of rent coming in to expenses going out, there's a reason that there's a lot of investors that have left the marketplace. It's because they're not positively geared. So people are pulling money out of their pocket to fund a rental property for the benefit of capital growth. And it's proportionately cheaper to rent the same property than it would be to pay your own mortgage.
And then when you look at the flip side, if you do want to become an owner instead of a tenant, is it cheaper? No. So it's sort of, it's one hand washes the other hand. Like, I don't know, like it seems like it's the fundamentals in that marketplace, building, immigration and all that sort of stuff. I think people really just have to look at what they're doing. I think it's been, for a landlord, it's been very easy to address the negatives that have happened. But I think quietly there's been some really nice positives going through to landlords. If you buy a property today in the Northern Beaches in Sydney, it's going to be the fastest positively gained property that you ever would have seen, certainly in my career of 30, 35 years. So traditionally, from a property to go to be purchased, and you borrow almost all the money, and then for it to be positively geared, the rent is higher than the mortgage repayments, it's traditionally taken 6 years. Now, I think that's going to probably look like 3 to 4 years on something you're buying today, maybe even 1 to 2 years. We had a townhouse in South Creek Road that was sold for 1.45 that was rented for 18.50 a week. That's positively geared straight away.
Yeah, it's big money, big rent. We've got a couple of things to show you as well this morning. Here, have a quick look at this.
Show us, Bill. Show us.
So this is growth in asking dwelling rents since May 2020. It's got Australia in red, America, Canada, New Zealand. Look at that explosion
Oh,
since May 2022. You know,
wow.
it's a big jump. Interesting. Melbourne's experienced the lowest rental growth of any Australian capital city. Victoria has built more homes per capita than any other state. So it's just supply.
Yeah.
It's filling the pipeline with what's needed. It's not that they've underperformed. I highly doubt that. They've just,
I think spot on. Yeah.
They've just been building. And supply matters. You know, they are saying Melbourne's still experiencing a shortage of rental. Vacancy rates are still remaining low. So it's not that properties are not going up in price and they're sitting vacant. It's quite the opposite.
So I think all in all from today, guys and girls, what we're trying to illustrate is there's the face value of what a landlord or maybe a tenant would see in the marketplace, but then there's this undercurrent that's also happening that often we are very reactive to what's happened in the last couple of days or the last couple of months, but we don't think about the last couple of years or certainly the decade. But it's been an incredible 5 years and even decade for rental increases for landlords. Albeit at the same time, I understand there's been a lot of restrictions that's been put on landlords and stuff like that. And I think for tenants in the marketplace, it's definitely been tougher with those rental increases that have come through. But equally, for mortgage holders, it's also been tougher. Because these cats were sitting on 2 or 3% interest rates. Now they're sitting on 6 or 7%. So it is tougher for everyone, for a tenant and for an owner occupier or a landlord holding a mortgage with those rates going up. So it's when the going gets tough, the tough gets going.
Yeah, I think the biggest broader takeaway is that the housing supply and migration, the patterns that probably have the greatest influence on what's going to happen to rents moving forward. It's not your government. It's not what the landlord wants. It's not the $20 increase or the interest rate. It's basically where's the supply coming from and how many people are needing accommodation.
Yeah, but I think people forget it's a tap. And I think people forget that someone's got a hand on that tap. So it's not the gods that are creating the rental increases or the gods that are creating the interest rate reductions or increases. It's the government. So, and the supply of building into the marketplace, like it's a very, very controlled environment. So I think there's an element of safety there that people don't want to see the banks go into carnage. They don't want to see the economy go into carnage. And they do have their hands on those levers, the government, for immigration, for supply and all that stuff. And I know it does take time. It's not just bang, make a policy change, see the difference come through tomorrow. It takes sometimes years, but it sort of sits well with me a little bit, Billy, that there is that control. And they seem to have, done a good job steering the last maybe 10 or 20 years, 30, maybe not lately, but yeah, interesting.
Yeah, there you go. Well, it's a good topic. I hope that bit of data helps. I'll show you that graph one more time. There it is on the world map. And any questions, reach out, give us a call. Doing a lot of rental appraisal at the moment. People built some equity in, now they're looking at moving into their new place. So there's a couple of good conversations there happening.
Yeah, we've had a lot of rental properties come on. You're right. So it's exciting.
Yeah, like if you don't, I think sometimes people forget that they don't need to basically buy the home and live in it forever. They can buy it, then they can become a landlord themselves and rent first. Give yourself that flexibility. It's a nice way of doing it.
Or first home buyers moving back into their family home and then renting the first home property out after a year or two.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks, Billy Bob. Have a great day.
Have a good day. You too.
See you, everyone. Happy Monday.